Hello there and welcome back to Coffee Break Blogging. This is episode 50 and we're going to be talking about the 5 biggest design mistakes that bloggers often make with their sites. So let's get right into it because we do like to keep these episodes fairly to the point, hence the coffee break idea behind it. The first design mistake that a lot of bloggers make is that their homepage is very cluttery. Now, the traditional blog homepage is that it displays the latest post on the homepage. And a lot of themes, they do that by default. And the other thing is that a lot of bloggers don't know how to make their theme do anything besides what it does by default. So what you do is you go to a lot of blogs and they list out the 5 or the 10 latest blog posts, typically because that blogger's got a lot of plugins installed for social media buttons and things like that. Then those are listed that exact amount of time. So if you've got 10 posts listed on your homepage, you've got all those social media buttons showing up 10 times on your homepage. You're also displaying all your categories and your tags and a very big complicated sidebar and all that stuff. Makes for a very, very cluttery homepage. The thing is, it makes the eyes literally go zigzag on each other when a person gets there. And we're talking here about conversions. We're talking about monetizing our blogs. And the thing is, you are not going to be able to achieve that if you've got an extremely cluttery homepage. The one caveat to this would be that if you are in a news-driven market, then cluttery homepages are a lot more common because people there, they are kind of scanning for headlines and things like that. It's a different mindset. But if you're going into this because you want to actually build a business and make some sales and monetize this thing for real, we need to do this in a much more strategic way. And that means the traditional homepage needs to be thrown away and we need to replace it with something simpler. Now, the ideal homepage for your blog is going to have a big branding image toward the top, right underneath your header. And then right next to that is going to be a call to action to get them to opt into your list. And that is going to take up a majority of your homepage. Now, if you display anything below that, you might display your latest post, but not 5 or 10 of them, just one. And even then, you keep it kind of not like subdued in such a way where you're not showing your tags, you're not showing your categories. You might just throw a headline or a feature image and then says, click here to read more, and that's it. And then one thing I do with my homepage is I highlight a few of what I call my money posts. And I'll get into that more here in a little bit when we talk about the sidebar. But the whole idea is that your homepage is a landing page for your blog, and you need to guide people into what their next logical step is when they arrive on your site. Don't do the traditional homepage where you're giving the person 50 different things to click on. Excuse me. Okay, the second big design mistake is having no opt-in or a really crappy opt-in. Now, building your list is really the number one priority of your blog. And it doesn't matter if you're doing this without any business intentions at all. You still need to build that list because it is your leverage point. It is how you're going to build that audience and keep them coming back and ultimately grow your traffic. So what a lot of people do is they either don't have an opt-in form, or the opt-in form that they have is kind of just very subdued and it's very vague, like subscribe to my newsletter. And they'll bury it on their sidebar or something like that. So that is a big mistake that a lot of people make. Now, the ideal thing that you need to do is you need to have a nice looking opt-in form that offers a lead magnet. Now, a lead magnet is just some little chunk of value that you give them. It could be a PDF, it could be a video, a cheat sheet, a white paper, whatever works best for your market, but you give that to them in exchange for the email. Now, where do you put this on your site? You put it at the top of your sidebar, you put it at your header, you put it in your footer, you put it underneath your blog post, and also within your blog post where it makes sense. Now, I don't recommend you stick full opt-in forms in the middle of your blog content, but you can link to things and use a pop-up box in order to get the opt-in. Now, a really easy way to do that would be the lead boxes functionality that's built into a lead pages account. They make this really simple. Now, there are other ways to do it, but then you might have to get a little bit geeky. So quite frankly, the easiest way to do it is using lead boxes built into a lead pages account. Number 3 design mistake is repeating those social media buttons way, 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 way too often. Now, I kind of mentioned this on the homepage because that's where it really shows up a lot. Because a lot of bloggers, they don't really know how to put these social media buttons in, so they'll rely on the plugins. The problem is, what a lot of plugins do is they will hook those buttons into certain places on the blog. And then whenever that template of your theme is used, it injects those social media buttons in there blindly without really knowing where it's showing up. And an example of that would be that if you go to your list of latest blog posts, if the plugin is designed to inject those social media buttons right underneath the headline, then any place those headlines show up, it's going to inject those buttons again, even if you're repeating it over and over and over again. So the solution here is to use a plugin that's a little bit smarter as to how it hooks into things. My favorite social media plugin right now is actually just simply called the Share plugin, and it's built into the SumoMe plugin system. So I think it's just sumome.com. Head over there. It's totally free. It's very well done because you basically install the SumoMe plugin, and it's like a little app store. You literally can go in there and look at all the different options they have and say, oh, that one looks cool. But one of them is the Share plugin, and you just install it and you're good to go. And the cool thing I like about it is that on mobile, if somebody's visiting your blog on a mobile phone, those social media buttons look very nice the way they work. So that's the SumoMe plugin, but you definitely do not want to use a plugin that is going to repeat the social media buttons repetitively. It needs to be smart in how it does that. The number 4 design mistake that I often see is showing the tags and the categories and all these other things way too often. A lot of bloggers, especially in their sidebar, they will be like, well, there's a widget for that, so let me throw it in there. And there's a widget for the tags, so let's throw that in there too. And they'll have these big tag clouds sitting in their sidebar. Or when you go to their blog post, then right underneath the headline, you will have a big list of tags or all these categories. Or you go down to the bottom of the post and it will have a big author box on who wrote it, which doesn't make any sense. If you're the only author of your blog, why would you have that author box there repetitively? So you need to think about this from a strategic standpoint, because a lot of bloggers, when you go to the blog post, they just take up too much space with all this extra garbage that goes along with the blog post, like the list of categories, the tags, the authors, the author bio, all this stuff that's just not necessary because it detracts from the post. Literally, everybody just glosses right over all that stuff to get to the meat of the content. So why are you going to distract them? The most important things here is the headline and the content and the call to action. That's the thing. That's what you want people to concentrate on. And just because there's a widget for something, or just because your theme has a thing in a certain place, doesn't mean that it has to stay there. Everything is changeable. So definitely don't display lots of tags. Don't display lots of categories. You don't need them. People don't navigate that way as much as you might think they do. If you display a big list of tags, or you go to your sidebar and there's a list of about 20 different categories there, trust me, people won't click on them. They just won't. It's a waste of space. But that brings me to the number 5 design mistake, and that is the sidebar. Now, the sidebar is one of those areas that I often see people get wrong, and that's because they clutter it up. They put way too many things in that sidebar. Another thing I've seen people do is they make the sidebar a little bit too narrow. And so let's talk a little bit about what should go in your sidebar. First of all, let's talk about left and right sidebars. It's very common for the sidebar to be on the right, and I think that that's fine from a customary standpoint with regard to blogs. But one thing you might need to think about, and this is especially true if you are running banner ads on your site, is you might want to explore moving your sidebar over to the other side on the left. Back when I ran a blog that was using advertising, I found that I got higher click-throughs and hence better revenue by having my sidebar on the left side of the site, whereas most blogs will display on the right. So something to test, something to think about. And if you have an opt-in at the very top of your sidebar, and that's what I think you should do with it, you might want to explore testing a left side sidebar because it does put the opt-in right in the central part of the screen where most people are likely going to land first with their eyeballs. There is this pattern called the F pattern. It's literally shaped like the letter F, and if you looked at your blog with the letter F implanted right on top of it, most people are going to start off at the very top and left like you would in a book, and then they're going to scroll across, and then they're going to go down a little bit, and they're going to scroll horizontally a little bit. Not literally scroll, but I'm talking about with their eyes. And it forms a letter F in how it actually works. So by putting the opt-in in the top left component, which would work great if you get the sidebar on the left, you put that opt-in and that lead magnet right in the place where people's eyeballs are usually going to land by default. Now, what goes in your sidebar? The sidebar should contain an opt-in, and then what I like to do underneath that is have what I call my money post. Now, I mentioned these earlier. My money posts are essentially blog posts that are very well developed. I really put a lot of work into the content, but they also work as a form of marketing for something that I want to sell. And that something could be an affiliate product, or it could be something that I personally have created, so I'm selling it direct as one of my products. So it's basically a form of native advertising on my blog. Native being that it fits the context of the format that it sits in. On Facebook, you see a lot of ads in your news feed. That's a form of native advertising. They look just like the other post in your news feed because the format of the content in the news feed looks like a standard news feed post. Well, on a blog post is that form of native advertising. So you can actually have content that's designed to sell something. It's extremely valuable, and you can link to that as one of your core money posts of your site, but it's actually a form of marketing for something that you want to sell. And you can link to those things in your sidebar. Now, you'll see a lot of blogs will link to most popular posts or something like that. And that's a good way to do it. But what you don't want to do is use a plugin which will do that automatically based on traffic, because that might not be your money post. It might be that one of your blog posts is performing really well, but you're like, crap, that wasn't really what I intended. So the big thing there is you can actually go and manually select the posts that you want to list on your sidebar and then just simply link them there. So from a user perspective, you've got a lead magnet at the top, which is your opt-in form. Right underneath that would be a list of your best posts, but these are ones that you selected from a strategic standpoint. And then beneath that would be some type of social connection option. It could be one of those Facebook widgets to fan up your page or whatever it might be. Other than that, I really wouldn't load up your sidebar a whole heck of a lot. I see a lot of people who overdo it. And it's really that whole idea of, well, there's a widget for it, so let me do it because it makes my site look busier. And that's just not the way you want to think about it. So those are the big top 5 design mistakes that I see on blogs. Let's review them real quickly. One is a cluttery homepage. Number 2 is having no opt-in opportunity or a really understated one, like just subscribe to my newsletter. It's like, it's kind of very weak. Number 3 is having those social media buttons repeating constantly all over the place. Number 4 is having those tags and those categories and those author boxes and all that stuff taking up a lot of screen space when somebody goes to read your blog post. And then 5th and lastly is having a sidebar which is just overloaded and has way too many things in it. I highly encourage you to simplify those sidebars and use them for what they're intended to be used for, not just because you want to make your site look busier by loading it up with widgets. Okay? All right, hopefully that was helpful for you too. I definitely encourage you to put these things to use on your own blog. If you are making some of these mistakes, don't feel bad about it because many people are. But the thing is, you can go on there and do something about it. For example, right now, just go to your sidebar, and if there's a lot of things in there, remove them, thin them out. That right there is going to help, okay? Just simplify things. There's a power in simplicity. It's something I live by, and it definitely works when it comes to monetizing your blog. Busy blogs don't necessarily convert very well, all right? All right, with that, I will see you in episode 51 where we're going to be talking about how to create the perfect about page for your blog. I'll see you then.